The Chambers is called to order. Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, my brother, the Right Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, His Excellency Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, GCON. We commence this joint sitting by handing the session to God in prayers. Right Honorable Kadi should take us in the Muslim prayers.
Sallu ala Nabi al-Karim. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala Nabi. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita wa rahimta wa barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alamin innaka Hamidul Majid. O Allah, the tuner of the heart and the professor of wisdom, we beseech you on this sacred day of our democracy to guide our president, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and all other leaders with divine wisdom and courage and sincerity. Grant our president the heart that fear only you, dear Allah, the hand that serve the people justly, and the mind that seek the truth over praises. Let the leadership of Mr. President be the source of peace to the Nigerian people, be the source of unity, and the source of progress to our dear nation, Nigeria. Dear Allah, protect Mr. President from whispers of sycophants and the traps of injustice. Surround our dear President with honest advisors and let his day in office be remembered for truth, justice, and legacy. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Rahim, Malik Yawmis.
When you are living, live in peace. We in the National Assembly pray that you will continue to do good and do aright to the people of Nigeria. We pray all these things through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, GCON, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, GCON, Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Deputy President of the Senate, my dear brother, the Junior Senator Barau Jibrin, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, my other brother, Ben Kalu, CFR, Principal Officers of the Senate and Principal Officers of the House of Representatives, distinguished senators and honorable members of the House of Representatives. Let me use this opportunity to greet all our executive governors who found time to be here. You are all welcome. And also greet all former principal officers and presiding officers particularly who found time to be here. Members of the Federal Executive Council, ambassadors and high commissioners here present, former presiding officers earlier mentioned, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and Chief of Staff to Mr. President and former Speaker, Right Honorable Gbajabiamila Amila, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, the clerk to the National Assembly, the service chiefs who came to honor this Democracy Day, national chairman of all political parties, especially the only political party in Nigeria, very relevant today, His Excellency Governor Ganduje and Chairman All Progressives Congress. Our royal fathers who are here with us, Chairman, National Assembly Service Commission and his commissioners, Deputy Clerk to the National Assembly, Clerk of the Senate and Clerk of the House of Representatives, Secretaries of Directorates of the National Assembly, National Assembly management staff, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, happy Democracy Day. Mr. President, on this hallowed floor, this is where the voices of the people find expression through their representatives. We are deeply honored to welcome you, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, to the chambers of the National Assembly. For the second time, you have honored this chamber on Democracy Day, realizing that the National Assembly remains the bastion of democracy in any nation. So we welcome you, sir. Your presence here rekindles the memory of a very long and courageous journey, marked by struggles, sacrifices, and unyielding belief in the ideals of democracy. That you, Mr. President, a veteran of the trenches of the fight for democracy, a symbol of democratic resistance, and a beneficiary of the people's trust, now stand before us or sit before us. To speak to your people, your parliamentarians and the nation and the global community is nothing short of providence. The National Assembly is very proud to host you, our president, our compatriot, and one of our own, as a distinguished senator forever, as we fulfill the solemn constitutional duty of addressing the nation through us. This chamber honors you not merely as the President of Nigeria, but as one of the architects of the very democratic foundation that we commemorate today. We gather not to mourn injustice, but to honor resilience. We observe not the triumph of politicians. Angry students marched, journalists spoke, mothers wailed, workers downed their tools, fathers stood before tanks, and young men and women whose only crime was believing in democracy laid down their lives. May their souls rest in peace. They died because they loved Nigeria. They loved Nigeria enough to fight for her soul. This was not just a rejection of oppression, but the beginning of a national reawakening, signifying a rebirth as well as a reckoning. The intro of Chief Moshood Abiola campaign song captured the spirit of that day. Nigeria on the march again. Indeed, Nigeria was on the march towards democracy. But that cruel announcement turned the march for democracy into a march for justice. Many, including Your Excellency, stood tall in those days of darkness, while others chose silence and others chose compromise. You chose to exhibit courage, rare courage. At great personal cost, Nadeko, which you were part of, helped sustain the flame of liberty when it was most at risk of going out, even to say a word. So as we mark this day, let us remember those who bled so we could vote, those who took risks so we could speak, those who were buried so that freedom might rise. Let us also pay tribute to all those who played pivotal roles in Nigeria's democratic transition. This year's theme, 26 years of democracy, renewing our commitment to national development, is not a slogan. It is a call to purpose, a reminder that democracy is not an end, but a means to national transformation in the future of this country called Nigeria. Likewise, the 10th National Assembly, which marks its second anniversary today, June 13, which ought to be tomorrow, but we are marking it today, has played its part with diligence and distinction. From its inception, the 10th National Assembly demonstrated, and is still demonstrating, a renewed vigor towards addressing the country's complex issues and challenges through purposeful legislations. This commitment is reflected in its extraordinary output. A total of 844 bills have been introduced within its first 2 years, 844 bills. An unprecedented figure that underscores the Senate's and the House of Representatives' proactive posture towards tackling pressing national issues. Out of this impressive volume, 107 bills are currently at the committee stages, undergoing the necessary scrutiny and stakeholders' engagement that will ensure quality legislation. 206 bills in the Senate are awaiting first reading, reflecting a robust pipeline of legislative ideas prepared to ensure the formal introduction, and 409 bills have also advanced to second stages in the Senate. I'm sure my brother will mention the ones in the House of Reps. Notably, the Senate so far has passed 96 bills, a record for any Nigerian Senate within 2 years only. At this stage, the legislative cycle, even more significantly, 52 of these bills have been assented to by Mr. President, translating into enforceable laws that will shape the governance of this country. Economic development, public welfare, and national security. These bills include the National Education Fund, local government autonomy, as earlier stated, regional development commissions, tax reforms. Universities have been established, particularly in the areas of agriculture. And most thank you also for the University of Environment established in Ogoniland, long ravaged by oil exploration and exploitation. You saw the need to establish that institution to remediate the terrible situation of the Niger Delta. We thank you. The 10th Senate has acted decisively on 26 executive bills, showcasing a healthy balance of cooperation and oversight in its engagement with the executive arm. These executive-sponsored legislations address key policy issues that will benefit not just the Senate, but Nigerians as a whole. And we have done this through thorough review and refinement. Beyond bills, the National Assembly has received over 100 petitions from Nigerian citizens and civil societies. This is a testimony to the public trust in the institution. Of these, 28 petitions have been fully adopted, providing redress, transparency, and institutional accountability. History teaches us that nations make the greatest progress when the executive arm that governs us has vision and the legislature guides with wisdom. But they prosper most when both work hand in hand, not as rivals. Democracy is not a gift, it is a trust that we must protect. To the youth, we must not treat democracy with apathy. To the civil society, we must not let memory fade. To the media, we must be held accountable through responsible journalism. And to every Nigerian, democracy must not be reduced to election days. It must live in our values, it must live in our institutions, and it must live in our daily lives. So let us preserve the memory of June 12. I respectfully urge Mr. President that we consider the establishment of a June 12 museum, a living archive where the stories, artifacts, struggles, and sacrifices of our leaders and the democratic movement will be housed, preserved, and taught, and let nations learn from the past losses of our dear country. And this will remain a moral compass for the future generations. As President of the Senate, I reaffirm the unwavering commitment of the 10th National Assembly to the cause of the Nigerian people. We must continue to champion every policy that uplifts the poor, empowers our youth, strengthens our economy, and defend the dignity of every citizen of this nation. We owe it to those who fought. We owe it to those who fell. We owe it to those who still believe. May we never again betray the hope that was once betrayed. And may we never lose the freedom that was once denied. Once again, Mr. President, welcome home to your chamber, which is not only the heartbeat of our nation's democracy, but your political home. We now have the singular privilege and honor to invite you to address your people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Principal Officers of the National Assembly, distinguished senators and honorable members, House of Representatives, executive governors here present, all former legislators here present, the National Chairman of All Progressive Congress, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, honorable ministers here present, Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Clerk of the National Assembly, all senior government officials, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. With profound honor, I stand before this joint session of our National Assembly, a parliament that embodies the will of Nigerian people. Today, as I enter this grand edifice built from the sweat and toil of our democratic yearning, my heart stirred. It was a blend of accomplishment and resolve. I felt a sense of collective accomplishment when I realized how far we had come as a nation. Since 1999, democracy has risen from the ashes and destitution of military rule to take its original rightful place as the only mode of governance of resilient and beloved people. With every footstep I took through this hallowed hall, up to the moment I now stand before you, I remember that we still have so much and a lot for that to go. To achieve this progress, we sought an elective office to lead this nation forward. Thus, I hereby affirm before you, our merciful and almighty God, and all men, and resolve to do all that I could do to safeguard and build our democracy as the divine hand intends for us to do. Since 2018, we have celebrated Democracy Day on this day to commemorate the sacrifices of the men and women who fought to restore democratic governance to Nigeria. Let me pay tribute to my predecessor, former President Muhammadu Buhari, for reaching back into history to rectify a national misdeed by making June 12 Democracy Day and by officially acknowledging Chief MKO Abiola, and his running mate, Babagana Kingibe, as the victors and the duly elected president and vice president, respectively, of Nigeria after June 12, 1993 election. Year by year, election after election, every time we debate instead of battle, we discuss instead of fight, and argue instead of destroy. We preserve the institution of democracy. More importantly, we weave the culture of democracy into very fabric of our nation. We thank God for this. Whilst Chief MKO Abiola is June 12th central figure, we must not forget the long list of those who equally deserve to be called heroes of democracy. We must celebrate the courage of Alhaja Kudirat Abiola and Pa Arfe Rewani, both of whom were murdered by agents of military repression. We also remember the many civil rights activists, journalists, and politicians imprisoned, exiled, tossed aside, tortured, and beaten by the military regime. We remember Chief Anthony Enoro, Commodore Dan Suleiman, Chief Abraham Adesanya, Ayo Adebanjo, Chief Gani Fawayemi, Balarabe Musa, Ganiu Daudu, the journalist Baguda Kato, and Commodore Ndibusi Kanu. I mention these names not to exclude or degrade the profound contribution of anyone else, but to illustrate through these few heroes the universality of our pursuit of democracy. The struggle was never the province of any one group or section of the country. It was pan-Nigeria in its conception, and it will even be more pan-Nigeria as we strive to perfect it. It is fitting that I come to this chamber to you. You are the authors of the people's law, and I must be their faithful implementer. While we may not always agree, we must forge a way to work together, because this is what democracy demands of us. I pledge myself to this cooperation and ask that you do the same for the good people of our country. Mr. Chairman, the National Assembly has acted to all uphold democratic ideas at every critical moment in our nation's history. In 2006, the Fifth National Assembly protected our democracy against unseemly third-term bid that would have ripped our Constitution apart. In 2010, the National Assembly, through the doctrine of necessity, opened the door for then Vice President Goodluck Jonathan to become the acting president following the illness of his predecessor. Even under the military, the National Assembly tried to protect our democracy. After General Abacha took over power on November 17, 1993, and dissolved the National Assembly, some of us, led by Senator Ame Ebute, the Senate President of the Third Republic, defied the General and his goons, and we reconvened Old Parliament building in Lagos and declare that regime illegal. We had the courage to do so, the determination to resuscitate democracy, but we were jailed for our defiance. On behalf of a grateful nation, I commend your invaluable role in lawmaking, oversight, and constituency representation. At this point, I plead for your indulgence so that I may put a terrible rumor to bed. To those who ring the alarm that the APC is intent on a one-party state, I offer you a most personal promise. While your alarm may be as a result of their panic, it rings an error. At no time in the past, nor any instance in the present, and at no future junction, shall I view the notion of one-party state as good for Nigeria. I've never attempted to alter any political party registration with INEC. Equally, my dear friends and colleagues, we cannot blame anybody seeking to bail out of a sinking ship, even without a life jacket. Look at my political history. I will be the last person to advocate such a scheme. In year 2003, when the then governing party tried to sweep the nation clean of political opposition through plot and manipulation, I was the last progressive governor standing in my region. In their numbers, they boasted. In all their numbers and the false grandeur, they boasted of ruling, not only governing Nigeria, for the next half century or more. Where are they now? Yet I stood alone. My allies had been induced into defeat. My adversary held all the cards that mortal man could carry. Even with all of that, they could not control my destiny and could not control our national destiny, because fate is written from the above. A greater power did not want Nigeria to become one-party state back then. Nigeria will not become such a state now. The failed effort to create a one-party state placed progressive political party forces on a trajectory to form the APC. It put me on the trajectory which has brought me before you today. I dare not search a favor to any political adversary by repeating the same mistake of political overreach. A one-party state is not in the oven, nor should it ever be. That said, we would be guilty of political malpractice if we close our door on those from other parties who now seek to join the APC. I sincerely welcome our party's newest members from Delta and Akwa Ibom states, led by Governor Sheriff Oboweri and Pastor Umo Eno and other national members of this respected National Assembly. You are all welcome to the progressive fold. Nobody should close the door. Political parties fearful of members leaving may be better served by examining their internal processes and affairs rather than fearfully conjuring up demons that do not exist. For me, I would not say try your best to put your house in order. I will not help you to do so either. It is indeed a pleasure to witness you in such a disarray. Order, please. We must distinguish honorable members of this House. We must welcome and accept the diversity and the number of political parties, just as we welcome and embrace the diversity of our population. Our efforts must never be to eliminate political competition, but to make that competition salutary to the national well-being of working across the aisle, political aisles, whenever it is possible. One area in which democracy calls us to work together, whether in legislative or executive branch, whether in this or other political parties, is that the economy and social development rating is improving, and we continue to promote oil and non-oil gas export. State do not need to go about borrowing to pay salaries anymore. In less than 1 year, over 100,000 Nigerians, including 35,000 civil servants, have benefited from affordable consumer credit through the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, enabling them to purchase vehicles, light up, and improve their well-being, and purchase life essentials. This July, we will launch a bold new initiative to empower 400,000 young Nigerians, including youth corpers, with consumer credit. We are committed to giving more opportunities to young people through job creation and skill development. Through such programs as Nigeria Education Fund, NEL Fund, we are investing in education and in the greater future of our country, vocational training, apprenticeship, and entrepreneurship to ensure that our youth are job ready and future ready. In addition, we have embarked on an ambitious project to lay fiber optic cables across the nation, a transformative step towards bridging the digital divide and fostering greater connectivity. This initiative promises not only to enhance the speedy and reality of internet access, but also to revolutionize how business operates, how students learn, and how community stays connected. By extending this critical infrastructure, we are empowering entrepreneurs, enabling digital education, and providing the tools for our youth to compete in a globalized economy. Our Nigerian First policy will further enhance progress and will consolidate market-driven growth. The improved economic performance is encouraging and validates the soundness of our policy measures with collaboration with you. Our medium-term growth target remains an economy growing at a 7% clip with a stronger manufacturing base. We must learn to produce and grow most of our food, and we are on the path to achieving food sovereignty. These and other reforms have placed the economy on a more rational footing, where critical decisions regarding the large-scale investment can now be made. We are making agriculture more sexy by providing tractors, and I ask you, the legislature, to join me as we enter the second half of our term to put forth innovative legislation that further encourages industrial development and job creation in our urban centers, while also drafting laws that improve food security and production. To further underpin our economic vision, we introduced a competitive tax reform package, a vital component of our economic re-engineering. I am deeply grateful to both chambers of this House for your thorough consideration and deliberation of these bills, and I look forward to signing them into law soon. Again, your collaboration across party lines on these bills has been a model of democratic partnership. You are great. As elected leaders, we must continue to do more to make real the dream of Nigerian political and economic democracy. We must be vigilant in expanding the political space. We must always value dialogue over dictatorship, persuasion over suppression, and rights over might, with the tolerant and broad equally when they are pained because of their losses. Call me any name. I'm not here to make you happy politically. And I will still call upon democracy to defend your right to do so. Mr. Senate President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished senators and honorable members, our nation is not perfect, but it is strong. Our democracy is not invincible, but it is alive. And this means our dream of a prosperous, happy nation is still within reach and worth fighting for. Mr. Chairman, Nigeria is at an inflection point, undergoing structural and fundamental change towards a secure future. Our administration is fully committed to boosting the economy and productive base through investment in critical infrastructure, roads, expansion of port operations, rail, and power, we are creating a new environment in which industry and manufacturing can thrive. Our tax and fiscal policy reform will streamline taxes, administration, and eliminate burdensome or multiple taxes, enabling our industrialists and entrepreneurs to operate in a more conducive environment. Governors must work and deliver value to the people. As part of our tax reform, we have provided small businesses with an exemption of tax, established the Office of Tax Ombudsman, and ensure transparency and protect taxpayers' rights. Digital tools now help us track performance and reduce waste. The diaspora's bond and non-resident BVN are bringing Nigerian abroad into national development fold. In line with my promise during the New Year address to the nation, I recently appointed the board of directors of the newly established National Credit Guarantee Company. The company backed with 100 billion naira in an initial capital. With the Bank of Industry, BOI, which, by the way, is performing very well in supporting SMEs, next year, Credit Corp and Murphy as stakeholders. BOI will play a significant role in transforming the nation's industrial landscape and reducing corruption. National security is the foundation of peace and progress. We have intensified security operations to reclaim communities from criminals and terrorists. We are better at coordinating intelligence and interagency cooperation. It has proved well for us. Our highways are safer now, and we invest in technology and training to secure every inch of this country. Let's take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces for their bravery in service of the nation, their selfless dedication to protecting our sovereignty and assuring the safety of citizens to serve an inspiration to us all. As we celebrate the progress of our democracy, we must not forget the pivotal role they play in safeguarding our freedom. For their courage and commitment, they deserve not only our gratitude, but also our continued support, prayers, and recognition. May God continue to keep our men and women safe. Fellow compatriots, our achievements are not the work of one man. They are the result of a collective effort to make possible the Nigerian dream. Yet the journey is not over. We must work even harder to translate broad macroeconomic gains into tangible improvement in the lives of ordinary Nigerians. We must stay the course, reject cynicism, and believe Nigeria can and will rise again. As we mark a 26th year of unbroken democracy, it is right to honor those who have made sacrifices in the past, braving all odds and the guns to ensure we have a regime of democracy in our country. In this light, I announce the conferment of posthumous honors of CAFR on Kudirat Abiola. The heroine of our June 12th struggle. I also confer posthumous honor on Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, GCFR, and Professor Humphrey Nwosu, CON, Rear Admiral Kanu, CON, Balarabe Musa, CFR, Paul Alfred Iwani, CFR, Bagabda Kato, OON, Shimaubani, OON, Dr. Bekora Samkuchi, CON, Alao Akabashorun, CON, Chief Franco Kori, CON, Ima Ezeazu, Bami, COON, Bamidele Aturu, OON, Frederick Fashim, CON, Professor Festus Iyayi, CON, Dr. John Yimasen, OON, Alaja Sawaba Gambo, CON, Dr. Edwin Madunagu, CON, Dr. Alex Ibru, CON, Shibola Ige, CFR, Paharuben Fasoranti, CFR, Senator Ayofasomi, CON, Senator Polycarp Nwite, CON, and Dr. Nuruddin Oluwokoko, CON. I also have the honor to confer on Professor Wole Soyinka, GCON, Professor Olatunji Dare, CON, the journalist and journalism teacher, Kunle Ajibade, OON, Noza Igebo, Dr. Olonyomi, Bayo Nanuga, CON, Ayo Obe, Oni, Dare Babarinsa, CON, Bishop Mazi Azam Kuka, CON, Senator Sonny Shehu Sonny, CON, Governor Basoni, CON, Barrister Femi Falana, SAN, CON, Professor Shafidin Namuwo, CON, Owe Lakemfa, OON, Barrister Luke Aganeno, OON, Senator Tokumbo Afikuyomi, CON, Labra Maku, OON, Kade Komolafe, OON, Dr. Tuji Alausa, OON, Honorable Abdul Oru, OON, Odia Mfem, OON, Sheye Kinde, CON, Barrister Felix Muka, CON, Barrister Ledumite, CON, Honorable Olawale Osun, CON, Dr. Amos Akingba, CON, Professor Segun Gbadegesin, CON, Bolaji Akinyemi, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, CFR, Dr. Kayode Sonoike, CON, Julius Nyambere, CON. Lieutenant General Ikpola Arani Akinriyade, retired GZON, Professor Bayo Williams, CON, Senator Abu Ibrahim, CFR, Senator Ame Bute, CFR. Additionally, I confer the national honor of CON on Uncle Sam Amuka Pemo, a legendary journalist and a publisher who remained true to his lifetime calling as he marks his 90th birthday tomorrow, June 13th. Furthermore, I also confer posthumous national honor on Ken Saro-Wiwa, CON. He was the leader of Goni 9 with his fellow travelers, Sunday Dobby, OON, Noduevo, OON, Daniel Boko, OON, Paul Levera, OON, Felix Owetri, OON, Barbara, OON, Barian Kobel, OON, John Kupen, OON. I shall also be exercising my prerogative of mercy, under the prerogative of mercy, to grant these national heroes a full pardon. Together with other names that shall be announced later in the conjunction with the National Council of State. Finally, it is my great privilege to now decorate the presiding officers of this National Assembly with the national honor earlier announced. Presiding officers, so please. Senate President. With the pen. Yes, sir. That's the thing about it.
Excellency. Thank you very much. Deputy Senate President.
The Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, that of Prof will come later. In conclusion, let us rededicate ourselves to the ideal of June 12. Freedom, transparency, and accountable government. Social justice, active citizen participation, and a just society where no one is oppressed. We must strive harder to hand over a banner to our children and grandchildren without stain. Happy Democracy Day, and may God continue to bless Federal Republic of Nigeria and protect our troops. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, and President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. It is now my singular privilege and honor to invite my brother, the Right Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives of the 10th National Assembly, Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, GCON, to now give us his remarks and also move a bit of time.
Your Excellency, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. My dear brother, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Godswill Akpabio, Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun, GCON, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the National Chairman of the greatest party in Africa, APC, Alhaji Ganduje, the Deputy President of the Senate, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, principal officers of the Senate and the House of Representatives, distinguished senators, and honorable members of the House of Representatives, executive governors ably led by the chairman of the Nigerian Progressive Governors Forum, former presiding officers of the National Assembly, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Chief of Staff to the President, members of the Federal Executive Council, ambassadors and high commissioners present here, the head of the civil service of the Federation, the clerk to the National Assembly, service chiefs, Royal Fathers present here, ably led by the Oni of Ife, the Chairman, National Assembly Service Commission and his commissioners, the Chief Commissioner of the Public Complaint Commission and your commissioners, the Deputy Clerk to the National Assembly, Clerk to the Senate and the Clerk to the House of Representatives, Secretaries of Directorates of the National Assembly management staff, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, we have gathered in this hallowed chamber to celebrate a truly historic occasion, which is 26 uninterrupted years of democracy in Nigeria. Your Excellency's address has not only elevated our commemoration, but also reaffirmed the vitality and resilience of our democratic institutions. On behalf of the National Assembly, I express our profound gratitude for the honor given to us by His Excellency, the President and Commander of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, thank you so much. We are honored. I will not take this honor for granted. We recall with reverence the historic events of June 12, 1993, a day when Nigerians across all divides united to affirm their collective will of democratic governance. We also salute His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself was a frontline crusader in the Nadeko pro-democracy struggle. You are one of the patriots who labored so that democracy might thrive. And now you lead our nation under the banner of renewed hope. Your story itself is that of the triumph of democracy. Over the past 26 years, the National Assembly has served as the guardian of our democratic institutions. In 2006, we rejected the third-term bid. In 2010, we invoked the doctrine of necessity to ensure uninterrupted governance, and we have championed constitutional and electoral reforms subsequently. Since June 2023, under President Tinubu's stewardship and the 10th National Assembly, we launched an 8-point legislative agenda, fully aligned with the renewed hope agenda. Within 2 years, we have reviewed 2,263 bills. Of these, 65.3 have passed second reading, while 186 have been successfully passed. A total of 51 bills have received presidential assent, marking an unprecedented milestone for any president in his first 2 years. Congratulations on that feat, Mr. President. Our legislative efforts have yielded measurable progress on multiple fronts. In security, we allocated 6.11 trillion, representing 11.1% of the 2025 budget, to the security sector. The Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria Act 2023, signed by the President, has set Nigeria on the path to self-reliance in arms production and logistics. Similarly, the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons Act 2024 has tightened regulatory loopholes in arms control. It is expected to significantly reduce the illicit circulation of small arms and light weapons across the country. On the economic front, we supported the removal of subsidies and the unification of foreign exchange windows. We courageously passed legislation targeted at tax reforms. Cumulatively, these actions, along with the bold decision of the President, are boosting investor confidence, increasing federal revenue, and augmenting state allocations. In April 2025, Nigeria met its OPEC production quota of 1.486 million barrels per day. This is the first time Nigeria has met its target since 2021. legislative measures, we have supported and accelerated the President's infrastructure revolution. Funding for infrastructure rose to 8.16% in 2025, sustaining 440 ongoing road projects, including the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano corridor and the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. In the social sector, allocation to education increased from 5.7% in 2021 to at least 8.2% in 2023-2024. The Student Loan Act has empowered over 500 students. Mr. President, with legislative support, you have established on record 10 new universities, polytechnics, and specialized institutions. This is the highest of any president in his first term. We are committed to providing funding to these institutions to ensure a smooth takeoff. Health allocations increased to 5.46% in 2024, resulting in the revitalization of 4,000 primary healthcare centers and clinics nationwide. We also supported the implementation of 70,000 Naira minimum wage to reinforce social protection. The House of Representatives has actively conducted oversight of executive agencies to ensure that laws are implemented and that development funds are allocated properly. The House Public Accounts Committee has reported recoveries exceeding 61.5 billion in outstanding debts owed to the federal government by oil and gas companies. A very big commendation to our Public Accounts Committee. Thank you, Honorable Salami. We have also deepened transparency through our biannual youth and women's town halls, an annual live televised citizens interactive session, and the annual House Open Week. We're excited to announce that the next Open Week is scheduled for July, and Mr. President will be honored if you could join us and officially declare the event open. Our parliamentary diplomacy has flourished with the establishment of 82 friendship groups, fostering legislative ties with global partners. Collaboration with civil society organizations, including UNDP, PLAC, UN Women, CAS, and YAGA Africa, have enhanced our expertise and promoted inclusion. Notably, the 10th House has partnered with the UNDP, resulting in a memorandum of understanding to mobilize 50 billion naira over 4 years for the parliamentary development project of the House, thereby strengthening the capacity of members of the House of Representatives. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 10th House has proven to be a house with a human face. In March 2025, members donated the sum of 705 million naira, equivalent to half of their salaries over 6 months, to support the Mr. President's relief program for vulnerable Nigerians. The House has also contributed the sum of 650 million to provide housing for the families of deceased members and former leaders. Furthermore, individual members donated over 500 million to support communities ravaged with civil strife in Kaduna, Enugu, Anambra, Oyo, Niger, Borno, Plateau, and the Federal Capital Territory, assisting displaced persons affected by banditry and communal violence. Furthermore, as part of the Renewed Hope agenda, the 10th House extended dedicated support to our traditional institutions, recognizing their vital role in community leadership and cohesion. We provided 40 new vehicles to traditional rulers across 6 geopolitical zones to enhance community engagement. Mr. President, we express profound gratitude to you for conferring the national honor of GCON upon the office of the Speaker, following pleas by members, and for expanding the National Security Council to include the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. Both decisions affirm the principle of institutional partnership. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Mr. President, at the risk of provoking the First Lady, I wish to reveal a secret to you. Here at the House, members fondly refer you to as the darling of the legislature. You have accomplished what no president has done for the National Assembly, namely substantially augmenting our capacity to respond to the needs of our constituents. We thank you for that. While we celebrate our successes, we remain acutely aware that it is not yet Uhuru. As we enter the second half of our term, our determination is unequivocal to expedite and finalize the constitutional amendment process by December 2025. Some of our priorities include special reserved seats for women, formal constitutional roles for traditional rulers, and legal backing for a 35% affirmative action gender policy. We appeal to the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and the Progressive Governors Forum to advocate for these essential reforms at the level of the states. Mr. President, I would be remiss in my responsibility to you if I conclude my brief remarks without also offering some useful recommendations on the way forward. You have demonstrated remarkable resolve in removing the fuel subsidy and allowing the Naira to float. Now we require an equally decisive intervention in our power sector. While progress is evident, it is time to wave your magic wand once more to break the cycle of underperformance by shifting from an over-reliance on thermal and hydroelectricity to a diversified energy mix. We must embrace renewable and clean energy sources, such as solar, wind, and even nuclear, to ensure a reliable and sustainable national grid. If anyone can do this, Mr. President, it is you. Secondly, developing the solid mineral sector is essential for Nigeria's economic diversification. While we have some existing geological data, it lacks the precision and quality needed to support large-scale exploration. To complement executive actions, the House of Representatives will immediately commence an urgent review of the 2007 Mining Act to allow subnational entities to operate within the profitable limits of the law, while enhancing oversights and mitigating security risk. If pursued with discipline and clarity, these reforms will position solid minerals as a strategic pillar of our national economy before too long. In conclusion, Mr. President, permit me one final earnest appeal. Today's ceremony has been truly magnificent, and you have achieved what past assemblies could only dream of: an annual address by the President to a joint session of the National Assembly. By accepting our invitation, you have made history. I respectfully urge that we now institutionalize this address as an annual event. On behalf of the Senate and the House of Representatives, I thank you for choosing to celebrate this Democracy Day with us in this hallowed chamber. Happy Democracy Day, Mr. President. Happy Democracy Day, all members of the National Assembly. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Mr. President, in the midst of that eloquent speech by the Right Honorable Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, GCON, he raised a motion that June 12 should be formalized as a presidential day of address to the joint session of the National Assembly. I'll put the question. Those in support of the motion as moved and seconded by the Senate President say aye. Aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. President, that is the motion of the National Assembly done in your front. Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you. The statistics do not lie. We are quite happy with the statistics you roll out and the pro-people's house that we all run. Mr. President, one request. The honorees, the presiding officers would like to have a group photograph with you right where you are before you depart. Then a slight announcement. Mr. President will now proceed after the group photograph to pay the usual respect to the hallowed chambers in this joint sitting, which is to take a bow to the presiding officers as well as to members. When he entered, Mr. President's handlers brought him straight to the chair. Whenever he enters the chambers, as a former parliamentarian, he's used to paying the normal respect to the parliament. So he will do that. And thereafter, we'll have the national anthem. But upon the departure of the president, he will be led by just the selected few, the deputy speaker, the deputy senate president, and the house leaders. And all other senators and House of Rep members must remain seated. We are too organized for Nigerians to see us seemingly disorganized. I thank you. If Mr. President obliges, I will step down with the Right Honorable Speaker for the group photograph. With the permission of the President, the Vice President of Nigeria is hereby invited to join this picture.
President Bola Tinubu has just addressed a joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja, and that's a part of events marking Nigeria's 2025 Democracy Day. The session spotlighted key milestones of the Fourth Republic, and it also echoed this year's theme, which is 26 years of democracy, renewing our commitment to national development. During the address, President Tinubu conferred national honors on Chief MKO Abiola, also former NEC chairman, Professor Humphrey Umusu, and others in recognition of their service to Nigeria's democratic journey. He also decorated the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, with the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. The President used the platform to reaffirm his commitment to multi-party democracy. Reflecting on his own experience as an opposition governor in Lagos State, he said he has no plans to turn Nigeria into a one-party state, though the APC remains open to those willing to join its ranks. Earlier in that address, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, on his part, urged federal lawmakers to disregard critics who label the National Assembly as a rubber stamp. He said such critics lack understanding of the legislature's role. He praised President Tinubu's achievements over the past 2 years and then reaffirmed the Assembly's commitment to supporting meaningful reforms. Now, we will cross over as we continue our coverage of Democracy Day. We'll cross over now to Ekpetedo. That's the ground where Chief MK Abiola boldly declared himself president in 1994, defying military rule. Our senior reporter Ayomide Ajegbe is live for us in Ekpetedo. Ayomide, what more can you tell us at this moment? Any activities, at the ground? All right, I understand we do not have Ayomide now. Once we connect with him, we'll bring you update from Ekpetedo. Now, as Nigeria celebrates 26 years of unbroken democracy, the former Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, is singing the praises of President Bola Tinubu. He called him a pillar of Nigeria's democracy. Now, in his words, President Tinubu is a towering figure in the nation's democratic journey, inspired by the late MK Abiola, who paid the ultimate price for the June 12, 1993 election. President Tinubu, a NADECO activist back then, faced arrest and exiled in the fight to restore civilian rule. The former police chief also highlighted his impact as governor of Lagos State, as saying his bold reforms in taxation, infrastructure, and urban renewal earned him the title Architect of Modern Lagos. Now, as the nation reflects on 26 years of the Fourth Republic, Mr. Adamu congratulates Nigerians for keeping democracy alive and hopes citizens continue to strive toward unity and progress. We'll bring you more on the Democracy Day celebration subsequently, but let's turn our attention now to other stories. Today, Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the World Day Against Child Labor. In a message to the nation, the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, condemned the continued exploitation of children through labor, calling it unacceptable. She said millions of Nigerians are being denied their rights to education and a proper childhood. The First Lady urged all stakeholders to speed up efforts by strengthening laws, supporting families, and investing in quality education. She called on Nigerians to work together to build a nation where every child is free to dream, grow, and reach their God-given potential. We're staying on the International Labour Day. Let's bring you more now from the conference. The Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have issued an ultimatum to state governments demanding the implementation of the consequential adjustments arising from the newly approved national minimum wage. At the 113th International Labour Organization Conference, Nigerian workers represented by the two labour centers also called on the federal government to increase the distribution of compressed natural gas vehicles, and that's to subsidize transportation for ordinary workers. Senior correspondent Sharon Ijaso has details in this report.
As conversations shaping the future of work continue at the 113th ILO conference, workers, government, and employers from around the globe are making critical contributions. Workers delegates from Nigeria emphasized the need for state government to implement the consequential wage adjustment tied to the new national minimum wage.
To look at what is called wage award. It was almost a new phenomenon in our lexicon, labor circle, to get a particular amount as a stopgap before the minimum wage was negotiated. So I think if we want to discuss the economy of Nigeria, we can look at it clearly, But in terms of negotiation, I think we have done what we are supposed to do. Secondly, from the labor movement, we come up with a policy of working on CNG. If that CNG policy had worked, I would beat my chest that 70,000 is enough, because we took it together. Most of the issues you are seeing around transportation, cost of living, are hinged on transportation.
The challenge that is there clearly is the consequential adjustment, because what we observed is that a lot of states, they kept announcing the minimum wage, it's 80,000, 75,000, but they did not do the consequential adjustment properly. In some states, they would just add like 10,000, 20,000 across board. And that was really what we frowned at. So in terms of minimum wage compliance for the 70,000, I think we've recorded good level of compliance, but the consequential adjustment was not done properly. But where there are other issues as well is in local government, because we still have some local governments today that have not started implementing it.
As the International Labour Organization continues to deliberate on a set of policies and programs to shape the future of work, it is hoped that conventions agreed upon will be implemented by member countries. Sharon Ijaso, TVC News, Geneva, Switzerland.
All right, we're turning our attention back to the National Assembly, where the president has just addressed a joint session of both chambers. Let's bring in our State House correspondent, Femi Akode. He's standing by live for us. Femi, Nigerians listened to the speech. It is the second since the president took office. He's breaking with tradition of the normal live broadcast. But talk to us about how the lawmakers received that speech. Femi, I was asking how the lawmakers received the president's address.
The president's address to a joint session is quite historic because, this. Yes, they described this address as quite historic because last year we saw something like this, but this is the first time that there will be that deliberate effort and a significant move to even institutionalize an address to a joint session of the National Assembly. Mr. President came, of course, spoke about some of his achievements, his administration's achievements, and granted posthumous honors on of some people who were neck deep in the struggle in actualizing the June 12 struggle, that's the actualization of that democracy or that election in 1993. But just hold it a bit. Let me bring in a perspective from a lawmaker who's the chief whip of the Senate. Hello, sir. How significant is this event today?
Well, today's June 12 celebration or Democracy Day celebration is significant in the sense that Mr. President took deliberate steps to recognize the heroes and the heroines of the struggle for the actualization of June 12. Some of them paid the supreme price in the quest to actualize the most fierce and freest election that Nigeria has ever held, and the part Nigerian mandate that was given to the ticket of Chief M.K. Abiola and Ambassador Babana Gana Kingibe. So some of these heroes and heroines were recognized. It's a good step, and it will serve as a veritable lesson for future generations to recognize that it is always good to be on the side of history.
Yeah, we saw Mr. President, lash out at critics or respond to critics and, of course, the opposition who have been accusing his administration of allowing the country slide into a one-party democracy. It was quite interesting to see his response. But in the Senate, we have also seen defections from the PDP aisle to the APC aisle. And people are worried that, with this kind of defections, that means when bills, especially executive bills, are sent to the National Assembly, we will not see a robust debate. That means that party interests will be placed above national interests.
It's not like that. The National Assembly will jealously guard and protect its independence in the way of making laws for the peace, order, and good governance of the country. But in the process of jealously guarding and protecting the independence, there is need for a mutually collaborative working relationship between the executive and the legislature. And then the relationship between the legislature and the executive is a mutually symbiotic relationship. That does not mean that the legislature will be reduced into a rubber-stamped legislature. We are going to jealously guard and protect the independence of the legislature. That does not mean that we are going to be in a confrontational mood with the executive. There's going to be a mutually symbiotic relationship between the two.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, sir. Well, let's just quickly bring in the Honorable Minister of Regional Development. He is a member of President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. And yes, we've seen President Bola Tinubu, this is the first deliberate effort we have seen by the President to address a joint session of the National Assembly. But how well did this go? And how did it also... how well did this go, and how did this also help President Bola Tinubu articulate his administration's plans and programs?
Thank you very much. First, let me correct you. This is not the very first time Mr. President is addressing a joint.
Last year there was a lot of back and forth, but this is the first deliberate effort.
Last year he addressed the National Assembly in this same very manner, and at least if you were there, you could have listened attentively to what the President was saying, speaking ex apo, and he touched on so many areas, ranging from democracy and the achievement of this very government. I think without mentioning word, Mr. President has done very well, and I am not going to catalogue all the things he has said before, but you and I know that if this president were not courageous, if he were not bold enough, most of the decisions that he has taken so far that has placed the nation on the path of growth would not have been possible. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of problems now in terms of being able to fund even recurrent expenditure of government. Like he said, we no longer borrow money to pay salaries as it were in the past. And this is because of the courageous move he took when he resumed office by removing oil subsidy, harmonizing the forex exchange rate and rest of them. And these are very gigantic measures that he has taken so far in order to put the nation on the path of growth and development.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your time. Thank you so much. Well, that's it, Honorable Minister for Regional Development. There will be a lot for both public analysts and also critics of Mr. President to chew on from his address to a joint session of the National Assembly today.
All right, Femi, absolutely. The President gave a lot of talking points. I'm sure that in the coming hours and days, we'll continue to analyze some of the things the President said. But we want to get more on this day. This particular day began with the resilience of one man, and that's M.K. Abiola. Our senior reporter, Theophilus Elama, is now at his residence as we get updates on events there. Theophilus, what more can you tell us about events happening at the M.K. Abiola's residence?
All right, Precious, at the MK Abiola residence in Ikeja, and of course we have just finished commemorating the day. Many pro-democracy activists have gathered here to celebrate this day and to celebrate the life and times of MK Abiola. And of course, it was a flurry of emotions as many people talked about his life and what he would have brought to bear if allowed to lead Nigeria to El Dorado, to where it ought to be. Many people talked about his policies and his plans to ensure that Nigerians do not get hungry and Nigerians become the true giant of Africa. And a lot more people talked about the fact that the present president, who's an apostle of MK Abiola, is also doing that and paving the way to ensure that Nigeria becomes a great nation. We spoke with some other activists, example, Deba Deniro, who is in charge of Kakol, and he mentioned that Democracy Day, June 12, should not just be called Democracy Day, but MKO Abiola Day. And that's what they are reiterating as well. We were at the wreath as well, where government officials and everybody was here to pay their respects, which they do every year at this place. And of course, they also reiterating calls for the government to ensure that.
All right, Theophilus, let me put you on hold as I bring in Ayomide, as we also get a quick update from what's happening at Ekpetado. Ayomide, what more can you also tell us in terms of activities at that ground where MK Abiola boldly declared himself president?
Thank you very much, Precious. This is the soil of history. This is Ekpetado, the heart of Lagos Island. This is the place so many years ago that Moshood Kashimawo Lawali Abiola declared himself president. The eyewitnesses on that day will say that it was an electric, wonderful atmosphere. But then we've been here for some hours today and no one has been here today. Earlier, this place was opened and going inside, you can see the structure itself is caving in. And a lot of people who are here, who live on the street here, says this place should have been a monument of some sort on a day like this. But it's in a state of disrepair. Aside from the statue of MKO that was erected here last year, there is nothing more significant to show that this is the place that the man whose name is in the folklore, is in the part of Nigeria's history, declared himself president. This is the only statue that can remind us of this significant day. And to be honest, this place brings a lot of memories to mind, and democracy will not forget.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ayomide. Interesting point you noted there, nothing happening on the ground. It means that more should be done in marking today's democracy. Thank you to our senior reporter as well, Theophilus Elama, who was live for us at MKO Abiola's residence. Thank you both. Now, we're going to bring you more on Democracy Day, but we do have to go now. We will bring you, up next is our program, Business Nigeria. Remember, you can continue to watch live on YouTube and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at TVC News Engine.
Now this is tomato mix. Even after adding water, you can still taste the tomato flavor.
With Tasty Tom Tomato Mix, you can cook any of your customers' favorite meals.
No color changing like traffic lights.
Tasty Tom will surely give you value for money because Tasty Tom Tomato Mix is thick. A little is enough to get your desired quantity of stew and soup. No unfair deal.
Tasty Tom makes me so happy. The taste is always on point.
And it doesn't color your meat or your chicken.
Because of Tasty Tom Tomato Mix, the taste of my food never changes. So my customers keep coming.
I don't compromise on the quality of my food, so I buy quality from the onset. Use Tasty Tom Enriched Tomato Mix.
Tasty Tom, for tasty meals good for you. Available in convenient sachets.
What are we looking at?
Thank you guys for joining us on this unforgettable night.
Everything is fine.
Paw Patrol is on a roll.
It's Max Verstappen in the lead. The megastar is here.
Absolutely sensational.
Let's go!
What were you guys doing
to us.
Get unbelievable entertainment that is unbelievably easy to own. Get and stay connected to DSTV.
The following is a paid presentation by
ShopX TV.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Maya Angelou was a civil rights activist, poet, and award-winning author known for her acclaimed 1969 memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and her numerous poetry and essay collections. Angelou was born on April 4, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. Angelou had a difficult childhood. Her parents split up when she was very young. Around the 1960s, Angelou lived in Ghana working as an editor and a freelance writer. Angelou also held a position at the University of Ghana for a time before she joined a community.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us on Happy Democracy Day, where we call for renewed pledge to integrity, transparency, and service. Of course, the president just left the chambers of a joint session where he addressed members of the National Assembly. A lot was said there, and honors were also given, some posthumous to those who had already passed on. But the president stood firm, by saying that he had to honor those who were in the struggle for democracy in Nigeria. We'll look at that, and particularly the economic aspect of that speech in our show as we move on today on the show. But first, let's see some big stories in the world of business as Nigeria records 5.2 trillion naira trade surplus in Q1 of 2025. The president also mentioned this today during his speech. No date extension in BDC recapitalization deadline. That's according to the CBN. Stock slip, dollar sags as trade geopolitical tensions weighs in. Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria has debunked a story suggesting that it extended the deadline for recapitalization of Bureau-de-Change operators to December 31st. Apex Bank Acting Director, Corporate Communications Department, Mrs. Akama Sidi Ali, in a statement described the information as false and misleading. She said the bank had not granted any such extension beyond the previously communicated deadline of June 3rd and urged the public to ignore the report. Communications Director wants the media and stakeholders to verify information through the website of the central bank, hinting that false information on banking operations could affect the stability of Nigeria's economy. Well, analyzing some major economic policies since 1999, let's start with the likes of Structural Adjustment Program and Economic Liberalization Era, 1999 to 2005. At our outset of Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the nation continued implementing the Structural Adjustment and Economic Liberalization Policy introduced in the 80s and early 90s. Away from that, it was Vision 2020. That was 2007 to 2019. Launched in 2009, the Vision 2020 was targeted at positioning Nigeria as one of the top 20 economies in the world by 2020, with a strategic focus on improving critical infrastructure, developing a vibrant and globally competitive economy, and enhancing human capital development. The strategy is sought to diversify the economy away from its heavy leanings on oil. Recent developments in 2019 to date, Nigeria's Agenda 2050, formulating policies and against the backdrop of several subsisting developmental challenges. Agenda 2050 is a perspective plan designed to take the country through an upper middle income country by 2050 and subsequently to the status of high income economy. President Bola Tinubu highlighted major achievements today with regards to the economy during his speech at the National Assembly. And some is about 400,000 young Nigerians to be empowered with the Consumer Credit Scheme, the Nigerian First policy. He talked about the tax reform, critical infrastructure projects being instituted by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, talking about our reserves also doing pretty well at this time. President Tinubu highlighted some of this. But let's get Mr. Johnson Chukwu on board to analyze some part of this speech. Mr. Johnson Chukwu is the founder and Group Chief Executive Officer of Cowrie Assets Management Limited. Mr. Chukwu, it's good to see you this afternoon, and thank you so much for your time. Happy Democracy Day to you.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me. Happy Democracy Day.
Yes, I think we should start with that speech, particularly looking at the high points where President Tinubu highlighted some major achievements of this administration. For me, the stability in our foreign exchange market, we've seen a bit of stability with our naira and the dollar. He mentioned that. We've also seen our net reserves doing better than what it used to be some months ago. And of course, our external reserves not doing badly. So if we look at all of this, yes, there are still challenges, I agree. But in your understanding as an economist and expert in this, the entire economic understanding and all of that, take us through what you make of those high points I highlighted.
Well, to really start from what has happened, what the government did in terms of economic policy pronouncements since it came into power.
Okay.
The first thing was to removal of petroleum subsidy. Second thing was the harmonization of exchange rates. Both of them, if you have followed my engagement with you, I had actually emphasized years back, and I've cried myself hawks. And several other analysts and economists have actually also been on the same direction that we needed to harmonize the exchange, we needed to take out the subsidy on petrol. Maybe how they were done, or the immediate impacts, we may all have a divergent opinion on that, but we all agree that it was absolutely necessary that we free the economy from subsidy payment, and we also, particularly consumption subsidy, that was not adding to productive activities in the country or adding directly. And we also said that we need to have a relatively single exchange rate to eliminate the abuses that were inherent in multiple exchange rates where the government sells, look at foreign currency to some of its friends or some of its favored people, some of the favored people. So we are on the same page with that. Like I said, the unintended consequences of those actions and probably the style they were executed, we may have a divergence. I have a different opinion on how they should have been done to minimize the negative impact they had. But certainly we are bound to have negative impacts. In terms of economic restructuring, I don't think we've achieved much when you talk about economic restructuring, because if you look at the GDP structure, you will realize that agriculture still trump other sectors, followed by ICT sector, followed by trade sector, followed by manufacturing sector, followed by I think finance sector now, and then you have the oil and gas sector, and then you have the real estate sector, and down pecking order. So that structure has not changed much. The manufacturing sector in terms of performance is still under severe pressure. The agricultural sector is still under severe pressure. The president talked about that we are moving towards food independence. I think that's the desire of every Nigerian, that we must address the issue of food insecurity. But a lot still has to be done in terms of fighting the insecurity in major food base of the country, in terms of supporting multiple season, or at least 2 season farming in the country, in terms of improving the yield on cultivated land. So, but let's assume that those are still work in progress. The president talked about some of their hallmark decisions, including Nigeria First. I think that, like I said, that's a lofty, I've said this before, that's a very lofty idea that we should encourage Nigerians to patronize made in Nigerian good. But we have been on it since Babangida's era. If you remember, they were even sing songs then when Miriam Babangida of blessed memory was wearing Nigerian-made clothes, and the fashion industry in Sudlere and all the rest took off like wildfire. But unfortunately, we've not been able to sustain that. We've actually mounted this multiple times. but we've not been able to sustain that. So the president coming up with that is a lofty idea. The devil is in the details. So how we implement that is another factor, which hopefully the president has 2 years to really implement that. On the foreign reserve, the president said the foreign reserve has improved. Yes, but we've also seen a lot of borrowing from what you call from foreign portfolio investors in terms of issuance of treasury bills and OMO instruments. Of course, increase in foreign reserve. Then the net foreign reserve, we also made allusion to that. But for you to have an enduring increase in net foreign reserve, you need to either increase your exports, which is actually what will give you an enduring balance. The president talked about the NEFOM, I think Nigerian Education Loan Scheme, which I think is commendable. So nobody will take away that those who are the most, those at the bottom of the rung of the ladder should still have access to credit to be able to go to school. He talked about the consumer credit that had been advanced to a number of people. He mentioned a reasonable number of people there. So in as much as I have not made those who have benefited from it, but I do not doubt that people, if they're able to borrow from government at subsidized rates, it will enhance, particularly if they invest those funds into things that are productive activities and not just consumption. He made reference that they're going to give additional loans to about 400,000 people, including youth corpers and all those things. Like I said, those loans, once they are properly monitored, once they are properly invested in productive activities, hopefully they will support the small and medium scale enterprises, which must make sure we do not fall into the same situation we found ourselves in the Anchor Borrower Program, where the ultimate beneficiaries of those loans, many of them could not pay back. I think the president talked about, I've spoken about the Nigeria First. Then he talked about the GDP growth rate. I think the people who wrote his speech made a mistake. When they talked about the fourth quarter GDP growth was 4.6%. It was actually 3.84%. I agreed it's the highest we've had in the past 2 years of this administration, but it was 3.84%. But the figure of 3.4% for annual growth of last year was accurate. Then if you now look at the other thing, talked about stabilization of exchange rates, narrowing of the gap in the official exchange rate and the parallel rate. Yes, we saw a very material narrowing up to the month of March this year. But unfortunately, because of the vulnerability of the economy, when Mr. Donald Trump came up with America Freedom Day or Liberation Day, and imposed tariffs across the world, we saw it affected negatively our exchange rate, and we saw the gap open up again. I think as at now, I saw the figures that official exchange rate about 1,530 something naira as at the close of business yesterday, while as at the parallel market is still about over 1,600. So you have opened up a gap of about 70 naira again, but at some point it had narrowed. Let's hope they will continue to work. Of course, economic development and economic progress is a continuous job. It's not a snapshot. So let's hope the next 2 years they will continue to work. But I must give credit to what the central bank has done in terms of managing the monetary policies, particularly with respect to use of OMO instruments, use of treasury bills instruments to attract foreign portfolio investment into the economy to help stabilize the exchange rate to some extent. Finally, on that note, if you look at the capital importation in the past 2 years since the president came in, of course, we don't have the figure for first quarter of this year. But if you look at the capital importation for second and third and fourth quarter of 2023, and then up to the third quarter of up to September 2024, total capital importation was about 8.9 billion, total capital importation. And then the foreign direct investment flow, it was less than 500 million. And that is where the big work has to be done. These policies of the government must dovetail into attracting foreign capital. So because we do not have all the local capital that's enough to drive fast economic growth. And finally, the president made mention to that there's a plan, or they have developed a plan to ensure there's fiber optics across the whole country to encourage or to support digital services and the use of digital services, including data services, will help educational institutions and all those things. So I think that's a bit summary of a short summary of what the president referred to as it relates to the economic segment of his broadcast.
All right, then let's shift focus to talk about two things. One is about the fiber optics. That's to do with tech, increasing internet access for Nigerians. I'm seeing a lot of positives around that space. That's one. Then also the tax reform, which we've talked about in recent times. And we expect that also to be signed into law anytime soon. Can we also share your thoughts around these two important developments?
Yeah, starting from the optic fiber or fiber optics, wherever what comes first. If you look at what is going, if you know what is going in, the now say that I think there's an advert that says data is blood now. Today, the most critical infrastructure globally is data, access to data. Just like electricity is very critical, so data is also critical. A number of Tolu, in the past, if you recall, I would have been in your studio having this conversation. That has saved me the commute time and the cost of fuel I would have taken from my house to your station because there's data service. And today, a lot of Nigerians are running their businesses on the digital platforms or the digital market or the virtual market. A lot of, in fact, today, banking services have basically gone virtual. A lot of things we do today are dependent on availability of data. So if we have optic fiber across the entire length and breadth of the country, in all the nooks and crannies of this country, it will boost commercial activities. It will boost economic activities. It will boost social activities, and it will help improve our standard of living. In other countries, I've been to several countries where all the open parks, all the public parks, the government provide free data services, free internet services. So once you get there, you log in and do your thing. So if you don't have money in your house or you're not able to pay for data, you just go to a public park and sit down there and do all your data service, all your data services. So that's as far as data has gone to in the world. Then on the legislations, I think the 4 pieces of legislation around the tax reforms, clearly, once this is signed into law and effectively implemented, it will help improve our tax system. Our tax system is, in terms of implementation, it's laden with a lot of booby traps. You realize that some of the things that the government had in the past had mounted about the tax reforms, we are harmonizing the taxes, we are not imposing additional taxes, we don't want to increase the burden. It is only when it's codified in law so that you and I can say, look, this is a breach of the law. You said you were not going to introduce new taxes, you introduce stamp duties on transactions that are not revenue earning, and then you take people's capital from because they did the transaction with the bank. So they're now going to be in a position to challenge them. And most importantly, the government will realize that some of the taxes that are introduced at the whims, sometimes of local government, sometimes at the state government, sometimes at the federal government, will no longer apply. So it's good we have some level of certainty, some level of modernization of our tax laws that will bring them in tandem with current best practices globally.
All right, then, it's getting more interesting. But despite all of this, the outlook is what everyone is also talking about, that as we move on, it seems that things could be getting better and, at least looking better than where they started from. What will be, for you, your projections for, say, short to medium and long term, considering where we are and the policies of government?
Okay, so let me ask you, what's your time frame for short, medium, and long term? Because your time frame will guide me.
Okay. At least for the first tenure of every administration is 4 years. So we have 2 years more for the first tenure of President Bola Tinubu. So looking at that, let's say in another 3 to 4 months or before the end of 2025, short term, say mid-2026, towards the end of 2026, medium, then towards 2027, long term. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I will expand the time frame for long term to be like 10 years or thereabout. The short term, in terms of the short term, which is the next 2 years, unfortunately, the honest truth is that, and I think you should document this, not a lot will change. And I will tell you why. Some of the pressure points, some of the challenges we have, many of the challenges, not some of them, are structural in nature. I'll give you an instance. Let's start from the issue of food security or food insecurity, however you want to put it. Until we are able to arrest the insecurity in the part, first of all, in the middle belt, which is not central, and then the northwest and the northeast, we are not likely going to see material improvement in food production. We may decide, as we have done in the recently, to start importing or expand our importation of food. But it doesn't give you, that's why I use the word food security, national food security, where your country can feed yourselves. We're not going to see those issues addressed in the next 2 years. If the government could make some gains, but in terms of restoring the citizens of those locations, those displaced citizens to going back to their farms and resume their cultivation, I don't think that may necessarily likely happen in the next 2 years. Then, in terms of exchange rates, a material appreciation of the exchange rate, unless government is able to borrow massively from the international market. Of course, I understand the government trying to borrow $5 billion from Saudi Aramco, or yes, from Saudi Aramco, and the government has the intention of borrowing about 21 billion. Unless those borrowings crystallize, in terms of maintaining strong local currency, it's still going to be a tough call. Because even in spite of the efforts of the government, crude oil production will non-materially improve in the next 2 years, because we have not seen so much of exploration. We're not seeing investment in the upstream sector to the extent that we should expect a 300,000, 500,000 increase in crude oil production. So if we are not able to achieve material improvement, I'm not saying there are not going to be some level of improvement. There could be some level of improvement with Seplatna assuming assets of Mobil, and with Oando's acquisition of, I think, Total also. We may see some improvement, but I do not see, unless you have a material improvement in the level of capital. And remember that oil and gas sector, oil exploration and production is not a short-term process. Even if you find oil, it could take you more than a year to start producing. So 2 years, if the 2 years is your timeline for short term, I don't see material improvement and foreign exchange earning, foreign reserve, exchange rates. What other sectors that are you looking at? So that leads us to, what do we think of inflation rate? I think inflation will gradually moderate, but I think we should still be contending with inflation rate in the region of 20% in the next 1 year. The simple reason is that food inflation is a major component of our consumer price index. So even if you see some level of deceleration in inflation rates, it's not going to be to the level of single digit. Maybe at best we see the region of 15% inflation rate. But bear in mind that inflation is additionally increment in average prices beyond what it was the previous year. So you are building on already a higher base. So that's as it relates to inflation rates. The way we talk about unemployment today, we do not have, that's my personal opinion, we don't have accurate figures on level of unemployment, because I find it difficult to be convinced that we have the same level of unemployment as a country like Germany or European Union when we say our unemployment rate is about 4.2 or 4.3%. So, but ordinarily, between you and I, because our economy is growing at a much slower rate than the rate at which we are churning out graduates, or the proportion of our youthful population. So we are going to continue to bring into the labor market more numbers than those who are absorbed by the labor market. So we should expect some level of consistent higher level of unemployment. So I think I've wrapped around the short term. In terms of the medium term we'll begin to see if the government is consistent, if there are no counterbalancing measures that are taken because of political exigencies. And I repeat myself, if there are no counterbalancing measures that are taken because of political exigencies to have short wins that will have longer-term disruptive impact, in the medium term, we should see some level of recovery. But I must emphasize that for us to have a buoyant economy where exchange rate will be strong, employment will be strong, the government must walk its talk as it relates to its emphasis on manufacturing, which the president made allusions to in his speech. That emphasis must be on manufacturing. That is the sector that will absorb a lot more hands than the service industry, given the demography of our population, which I had referenced earlier, that we are largely a youthful population. So people entering the labor market are quite high, higher than the number of those who are exiting the Nigerian population to meet their forebearers. You know what I mean? I mean those who pass on to the to the next world. So these are facts. So in terms of in the medium term, in the long term, I think you and I should, in the course of this narrative we engage in regularly, encourage government to do the heavy lifting, address the issue of critical infrastructure. I'm happy the government talked about data services, having optic fiber or fiber optics across the country. We need to address other critical infrastructure, particularly arterial high roads. The government needs to ensure that we have them. We need to stabilize and improve power supply. Energy supply is critical. We need to address the issue of port infrastructure. Is critical for import and export of goods. We need to improve the quality of education in terms of curriculum. The president made allusion to that the educational system is they're working to improve the quality of people coming into the labor market, the skills that are being trained. We need to make that a critical component of our economic development. And then we need to address our legal framework. Our legal system is a major setback. I was listening to former Governor Fashola this morning on the program organized by the church in Ilukweji. What's the name of the church? And he anchored his speech on rule of law. It has actually, unfortunately for us, it has actually collapsed. Our legal system has collapsed. And I hope the judges will pull back and ask themselves, do people still get justice from our legal system? The answer is no, because they have a saying that justice denied is justice delayed is justice denied. We need to address our legal system.
Interesting conversation as always. I must thank you so much, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, for helping us understand President Bola Tinubu's speech there presented at the National Assembly, joint session of National Assembly today. Thank you so much. Mr. Johnson Chukwu is the founder, Group Chief Executive Officer, Cowrie Assets Management Limited. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
And your holiday. All right, then, still to come on the show, Lagos e-collop system. Well, NATO, Ipman, rejects imposition of 12,500 naira levy on trucks, calls for immediate review. Well, President, Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, Mr. Yusuf Othman, will join me live from our Abuja studios for this conversation right after this break. Don't go away.
In the 21st century, Nigeria cannot be an independent nation without technology independence.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
It's 26 years of straight civil rule, the longest in Nigeria's democratic experience. The Fourth Republic has witnessed 7 successful presidential elections with winners. As part of TVC Town Square series, tune to TVC News on Thursday, June 12 at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for an engaging discourse on 26 years of unbroken democracy, celebrating our wins and charting the path for the future. With our team of esteemed panelists, Founder and Director of Women Advocate and Research Development Center, Dr. Abiola Akiode-Afolabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Biodun Owonikoko, Country Director of the Amnesty International, Isa Sanusi, Daniel Buhala, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Policy Communication, and veteran journalist Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. They will be joined by a live studio audience. But you will not miss out if you're not in the studio. You can participate in the discussion through all our social media platforms. Stay tuned to TVC News. First with breaking news.
All right, then now let's go to another conversation. A lot around Democracy Day, which will still be playing out. But the leadership of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners and, of course, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria have strongly rejected what the term as unilateral imposition of a 12,500 levy per truck by Lagos State government for the Lagos e-call-up system along the Lekki-Ekpe corridor. The association, in a press statement made available to newsmen earlier today, said the levy is unacceptable, adding that they are prepared to explore legal and procedural means to challenge what is considered as an unwholesome economic burden. In a statement signed by the leadership of both associations earlier today, they conveyed their appreciation for the introduction of the e-call-up system for Lekki-Ekpe corridor, a policy recognized as a strategic initiative to ease traffic congestion and improve logistics flow along the axis. They explained that they had officially reacted to the proposed levy, citing the economic implications of this charge, particularly on the distribution costs and pricing of petroleum products. According to the statement, Natwan Ipman proposed a downward review to 2,500 naira per truck, reflecting equity, affordability, and broader national interest. Well, let's talk to the president of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, Alhaji Yusuf Lawal Othman, live from Abuja studios. Thank you so much. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes, I think we should start with the origin of this crisis. Where did all of this? Because according to what we've heard, there's been a series of meetings before now. Where are we and how did we get to this point?
Well, thank you so much. I must confess that we've had series of meetings under the leadership of the Honorable Commissioner of Transport, Lagos State. And several times meetings will hold and will be, postponed for so many reasons. But finally, it came to a point where we understood. Originally, yes, they showed us even so many parking areas across Lagos State that our trucks will, when they come, they will key in, then they will park as a holding bay before they go to their respective loading points. But what came out at the end of the day was the fact that this payment is going to be borne by the transporter. Now, to a very large extent, I must commend Lagos State government and particularly the Commissioner of Transport. He's done a very good job as far as I'm concerned, or we are concerned generally, and he's doing a good job. And of course, we appreciate the initiative of trying to ensure that there is orderliness in every area across Lekki-Ekpe zone. We have, of course, recognized the fact that it's not only trucks that are in Lekki-Ekpe. There are a lot of residents, other businesses who also are entitled to their livelihood and business, exploration over there. But notwithstanding, we appreciate, of course, we know quite well that the state government should also realize the fact that for a depot to be there a refinery to be there as well as ports, naturally there will have to be off-takers. And these off-takers will come in so many forms: trucks, open body, wet, and every other. So as such, there should be some provision for those off-takers. And that is our belief. Now, if at the end of the day there is a plan to have orderliness, why not? We'll key in and ensure that every other person, is on board to ensure the success or efficacy of the project. Now, the bone of contention is the fact that in the last meeting that was held under the auspices of the Mr. Deputy Governor, where the meeting we were not there because we missed flight, and prior to that they called for meetings 3 times, and we got prepared, and the meetings were cancelled. And in so many instances, we even got to Lagos before they cancelled. But notwithstanding, they believe that, okay, since everybody is on board, decision is taken, it will commence on Monday on the 16th. Now, as far as we are concerned, yes, we key in, but we've written a letter to Mr. Governor and told him that, yes, we appreciate the work he's doing and, of course, the plan for the e-column, but there is need for a review downward of the proposed amount to be paid. This is to ensure there is efficacy in the activity, and maybe going forward as it progresses, maybe they can make some improvement. But nothing was done. We just heard that they're going to commence implementation on Monday. And this has not gone down well with a lot of our members. And myself being the president of these people, I have a responsibility to ensure that I fight their cause and take it to any length to the best of my abilities, and this is exactly what I'm doing.
Interestingly, if this happens, and because I know there are some levies being paid already, and this is added to it, that means Nigerians might have to pay more for petroleum products, one way or the other.
Eventually, the cost will have to be transferred to the consumers. And it's not only petroleum products. There are other goods that will be taken from the ports, from the Dangote refinery, there is fertilizer, and so many others, which will eventually be transferred to the eventual consumer. If it is from the ports, of course, to the consignee as well as to the consumer. And as much as we believe that they have good cause, but we believe the amount is too high. At the same time, also, if it is true that they want to remove the congestion, so-called congestion in the area, I want to believe that Dangote refinery should have adequate parking area for the off-takers of the product, be it petroleum product or fertilizer, as well as also Pinnacle. And so I don't see any cause for hiring, parks in the guise of all these. I don't think it's right. And also there are plans way back in Lagos. If you go to Lagos very well in the last 20, 30 years, you know that at times when they do odd and even numbers, and if there is a general belief that there is cure, that they can return odd and even numbers in the Lekki AP zone, as well as also to reduce the amount to the BRS minimum. Let us feel the impact of the project. Then probably as we feel the impact, we are not averse to the implementation, but we felt and we have complained, have written to His Excellency the Governor that there is need to look inward and probably review downward the proposed 12,500 per truck, so that we see how well this is done, this is managed, and probably after a certain time we can cover. And see, don't forget that there are a lot of off-takers who are Lagos-based, whose trucks move daily from Dangote refinery and maybe Pinnacle depot to service Lagos. And imagine every day they pay 12,000 every day. What is the amount they are being paid vis-a-vis the cost of the vehicle? And and at the end of the day, we are not even sure of the efficacy of the project, because we've experienced the Apapa call-up, either MP or whatever. We started, you see, when it rains, it pours. So that is why we're very careful. These consultants, they've not only been to Lagos State, they've been to states in the coastal area that they have a very good project for revenue drive, where an old truck that pass through those states, they have certain amount they pay. And listen, I want to believe Mr. President has taken care of these extortions, because there was a meeting of some ministers involving Minister of Defense, Agri, Livestock. I was in attendance trying to see how all these multiple taxations can be reduced so that the cost of goods across the country will reduce. Now, this is another form of extortion or tax, because it's not only Lagos State that will going to experience this. And there are a lot of states where assuming you load from Lagos coming down to Abuja, imagine the number of states you will pass through, and imagine the amount you pay. And also, in Lagos State, for example, we have issues with LASMA. Imagine if you load from the Lekki Epe exit, and a driver who is loading petroleum product coming from that area out to Ogere, there is no resting area. You imagine if you follow through the Lekki or then VI, then probably other areas, any stop, you pay 150,000, they will tow it, you can't rest. You know, all these things. So all the facilities are not in place for you. It's not all about paying the money. I would expect that by now, if it is from Ijegun area or from Apapa, when you are coming down, there should be some resting areas for drivers loaded petroleum products. You know, not only petroleum products, loaded trailer drivers and so many other that. So that in case of any issue, LASMA catch you, you are getting value, but it's just collecting the money. For the last 10, 20 years, you see LASMA collecting money, but they have not made any provision to see that this money that is being collected, there is some value addition in terms of resting areas, or where a vehicle has puncture, you can pass, you pay certain for certain pass, just to collect the money and no value addition. So that's why we are much concerned about this plan, whatever. Let them collect some few meager amount, then let them bring the service, then everybody will key in, then everybody will be happy, irrespective of the fact that, you know, it's going to be additional pain in view of the high operational cost of running these trucks across the country. I wanted them to realize that today fuel is distributed in this country 100% by trucks. Now, if we are having these issues, every state will have to pay this amount of money. We have several, 3 different categories of transporters of this petroleum product. There are company-owned or practice, for example, assuming as a refinery, they have their own trucks. There is a marketer trucks. Then there is third-party trucks who are an off-taker who is giving service. So in all of these categories, we go across the country. Fuel today is distributed 100% by trucks. Now, if there is no return on investment or no and multiple taxation everywhere across the country, what is the benefit of getting into the business? At the same time, also, how would you be able to get all this done in a more peaceful environment? Moreover, we in Nigeria are Nigerians doing this business, and we're looking for people who will come in and key into Nigerian activities, and Nigerians are doing these things to themselves and don't think it's right. So there is need for His Excellency, Mr. Governor of Lagos State, please look at this issue. We appreciate what they are doing. We appreciate their plans, but look at the pricing. Maybe let us see how it goes from the maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Then probably we see how we could improve if there is need, but not just to come and just be collecting money for the sake of collecting money, not necessarily for the sake of giving service. Now
let me follow up with understanding. If have you visited these parks? That's one. What's the capacity? And because your trucks, the turning radius, and all of that, how comfortable it is that? That's on one side. But now the state government has insisted that this will take effect on the 16th. That's according to the essay to the governor, who would also try to reach out to get his views on this matter. Now, what will be your position as we move? Monday is just around the corner.
Yes, I quite appreciate we have taken legal measures. We are going to take procedural measures, of course. And, you can take the horse to the river, but you can't force the horse to take water. Our trucks can go there. They don't necessarily have to go to the Lekki area. They can remain around the area. They don't necessarily even have to go there. Because if there is nothing done, we will have to tell our members to be careful. If you feel you can pay the amount, you can pay. But as far as we are concerned, we have buttressed the concern of our people to the government and to the general public. I think we have done our bit, and we will not relent in ensuring that we do our very best until our strength is no more.
I talked about the park. If you've visited some of the parks, have you?
Yes, we visited some of the parks of Obaja, at Badia, and some at so many. We have not visited the parks at Lekki.
Okay.
But we believe, but irrespective of the fact that they have parks, the refinery, the major refinery there has its own park.
Okay.
Pinnacle has its own park. Why do you have to go to another park? In any case, if you are going to, what they should look at, what we kept telling them is that, assuming you have an estate and you have a guest, we are guests, or somebody you are sending, or a dispatch person that will come. Once you come to the gate of the estate, he is supposed to take care of your entry and exit into the estate. As simple as that. So if you are going to Lekki Epe, you are either going to Pinnacle to load or going to Dangote to load. They should have provision for you and make sure you are good to go before you come. You can't just come and be gallivanting across the road just because you are a transporter. Nobody wants to come and just waste his time and energy. I appreciate the fact that it's not only trucks that have this. There are a lot of inhabitants, there are government people, there are other businesses whose livelihood and whatever probably, but we appreciate the orderliness, we want the orderliness, but we're appealing to government to look at this price of 2,500. At least for a starting point, let us see how far it will go. Then we will probably, if we feel, we will not feel the impact if necessary provision is made. But for now, we do not agree with whoever the Sholagiwa, we don't agree with him. We would rather even talk to the commissioner directly, not even SA, because we felt let me reserve my comment. Thank you.
All right then. Finally, I know recently there were some protests around Apapa area, also around this the e-collop system in Apapa, which we covered and aired, and not just, even other sister stations had that report. So what really was the challenge also with regards to this system, if it's really strategic?
It's still the issue of the e-collop, and we had some truce with them some few months ago, wherein sometimes vehicle will break down, they will call it abandoned. There are a certain time frame, certain hours within which if a vehicle breaks down, it's considered abandoned before you send a crane to take it away. And so we agreed. And there are also provision where some of our members have their own crane. So if such is considered abandoned, we would like to use our crane and take it away. But initially they wanted to use their own crane because it's so exorbitant charges. The issue of this e-collop is something very germane that you see, especially the port issue. You see, it's beyond. Lagos is a state, but it's beyond a state. People managing such should their thinking and their planning. People managing should be thinking that should go beyond. Lagos is a nation, and whoever is in charge is speaking should be looking at that, not just looking within Apapa, born and brought in Apapa, my life at school. No. These people should go to Benin, Cotonou, go to South Africa ports, go to Antwerp and see the operation, because some little action you do affects the whole country. That was why several times they've been thinking of how to make sure these ports operate optimally 24 hours. Some of these myopic ideas within certain people within the environment who have been in this over time for the last 10, almost 20 years, that is why there has not been any meaningful progress. We should have people who will think of this Lagos as a nation. It's beyond a state. So the actions and whatever should be somebody managing such to be an international person, not just people within the people handling their affairs. I'm not referring to the Honorable Commissioner, but the people, small people there who are, they are the people giving us problems. So there is need to look at it as a holistic approach.
All right.
So that, I even told them there is need for some of the operators to go to Antwerp, to go to South Africa port and see, but I don't know.
All right then, Alhaji Yusuf Lawal Othman, President, Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners. Thank you so much. It's a developing story. We'll stay with it and, of course, have updates from all angles. Thank you so much. Do enjoy Democracy Day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All the best. Thank you.
All right then. Well, we would take a breather and we'll do some look at global stock markets before we wrap up the show after this break.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw ether material slabbed, stroked, and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
All right, glad to have you back. Now let's run through our market report as we wrap up the show for today. Commodities market, gold, silver, copper, and platinum. Gold is 1.08% in the positive this afternoon, as silver is down 0.54%, selling for $3,379.70 an ounce. Silver is $36.07. Copper is $478.95. Platinum is $1,263.21, and copper is down 0.52%. Platinum is up 0.28%. Now let's see corn, wheat, cocoa, and cotton. Well, for corn it's flat, $439.75. Wheat is $531.75. Cocoa is $9,069, and it's up 0.43%. Cotton $67.38 and is down 0.40%. Corn is flat. Wheat is down 0.47%. But the global markets now, all doesn't in red now, and the dollar, it slipped today as investors sized up mild U.S. inflation reports and a fragile trade truce between Washington and Beijing, while rising tensions in the Middle East and lingering tariff anxiety dented market sentiment. European stock looks set for open lower, with futures tracking German DAX and London futures down 0.8% and 0.4% on this side. Contracts tracking Wall Street S&P 500 pointed to a lower start as well, 0.2% down. And stocks in Europe and U.S. also took a breather after a rally over the past session. In Asia Pacific, MSCI's broadest index tracking stocks in the region slipped 0.2% after hitting a 3-year high, while Japan's Nikkei slipped 0.5%. Chinese and Hong Kong stocks also took a pause after touching multi-weeks high. Well, wrapping up the show now, crude oil prices eased today, reversing gains made earlier in Asian market as participants access a United States decision to move personnel from the Middle East ahead of talks with Iran over nuclear activities. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell to $67.45 per barrel, down 1.03%. Brent crude futures sells for $68.99, down 1.12%. Bonnie Light sells for $78.62, down 2.84%. While for the OPEC basket, dealers offer $67.35, and it's up 1.31%. Well, that's our show today. Thank you so much for watching. And this is opened. We have a right of reply from the Lagos State government. We call on the social advisor, Shola Giwa, or even the Commissioner for Transport to talk to us about this issue so that at least we can get a middle ground and move on with this truck so that there's no shutdown of activities along that axis. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, where we'll talk more business. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Ogun State, the gateway to Nigeria, is setting the pace with groundbreaking infrastructure projects and innovative social programs for economic development. Join us every week for Gateway Diary, where we spotlight the incredible initiatives and achievements of Ogun State government under the leadership of Governor Dapo Abiodun. Discover how Prince Dapo Abiodun and his team are empowering communities, fostering economic growth, and enhancing the quality of life for the good people of Ogun State. With exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and real-time stories from the people, Gateway Diary offers authentic and inspiring insight into the progress and prosperity of Ogun State. Gateway Diary, showing.
To keep taxpayers informed about tax processes and innovations that simplify tax remittance, the Federal Inland Revenue Service's new weekly program, Tax File, has debuted. Airing on television channels nationwide, Tax File features engaging segments. That's not all. We also have Tax File Special, where we bring in top business owners and CEOs to share their journey to success, with emphasis on how the understanding of taxation contributed in their rise to the top. Showing on this channel every Thursday by 9:30 p.m.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV station of the year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
I'm Nifemi Oguntoye, news anchor with TVC News.
My day is usually busy and it's difficult keeping up with breaking news stories, trending stories, business news, stock exchange and what have you. But with TVC News on WhatsApp, I'm able to catch up with all the breaking news, real-time updates and trending stories on the go, right on my phone. No matter where I am, it's quick, easy and always on. And here you can join us by scanning the QR code or using the link on our X and Instagram. Why wait? Come to the side of news that keeps you ahead. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Hello, thanks for joining us on World Now. We're beginning here in Nigeria, where it's Democracy Day today. It's a day that honors the sacrifices made for the nation's democratic freedom, especially the historic June 12, 1993 election, widely regarded as the freest and fairest in our nation's history. And now, President Bola Tinubu has just moments ago addressed a joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja, and that's part of events marking Nigeria's 2025 Democracy Day. The session spotlighted a key milestone of the Fourth Republic and echoed this year's theme, 26 years of democracy, renewing our commitment to national development. During the address, President Tinubu conferred national honors on Kudirat Abiola, also on former NEC chairman, Professor Humphrey Wonsu, and others in recognition of their service to Nigeria's democratic journey. He also decorated the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, with a Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. The President used the platform to reaffirm his commitment to multi-party democracy. Reflecting on his own experience as an opposition governor in Lagos, he said he has no plans to turn Nigeria into a one-party state though the APC remains open to those willing to join its ranks. In his address as well, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, on his part, urged federal lawmakers to disregard critics who label the National Assembly as a rubber stamp. He said such critics lack understanding of the legislature's role. He also praised President Tinubu's achievements over the past 2 years and reaffirmed the Assembly's commitment to supporting meaningful reforms. Away from Nigeria's democracy, we move now to India, where a London-bound Air India plane crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad. The aircraft, a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner carrying 242 passengers, went down in a residential area near the airport. It also struck a doctor's hostel. At least 204 bodies have been recovered, and more than 50 medical students are being treated in hospital. The flight had 169 Indian nationals on board, along with 53 Britons, 7 Portuguese nationals, and 1 Canadian. Footage shows the moment of impact and the massive explosion that followed. The cause of the crash remains unclear, but aviation experts suggest a possible issue with the wing flaps. Boeing says it is in contact with Air India and has offered its condolences. Tributes have poured in from across the world, including King Charles, who says he's desperately shocked. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has described the crash as heartbreaking beyond words and adds that his thoughts are with everyone affected by it. He also adds that he's in touch with ministers and other government officials working to assist those affected. Stay with us as we continue to bring you updates on that developing story. Let's turn attention now to Iran, where the global nuclear watchdog says Iran has failed to meet its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. A resolution passed by the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency carries the threat of an eventual referral to the UN Security Council. It follows a report from the IAEA last week, which cited a general lack of cooperation from Iran and raised concerns over secret activities and undeclared nuclear material in areas which have been under investigation. Iran's foreign ministry had warned European nations earlier this week that backing the motion would be a mistake. Staying in the Middle East, U.S. government sources say non-essential U.S. embassy staff and their dependents in Baghdad will be evacuated from Iraq due to heightened security risk. This could be due to an alleged plan by Israel to launch an operation into Iran and could extend retaliatory acts set in U.S. sites in Iraq. It comes as U.S. talks over Iran's nuclear program appear to have stalled in recent days. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff is still planning to hold talks with Iran about its nuclear program on Sunday. The U.S. president hopes to strike a deal to stop Iran developing a nuclear weapon. Well, let's take you now to the protests over immigration raids in America, which we have been tracking. Now, some parts of downtown Los Angeles have been under curfew for 2 days, and at least 400 persons have been reportedly arrested. We have a report.
For a second night in Los Angeles, a curfew is in place after nearly a week of unrest in the city over U.S. immigration raids. Many people were arrested for violating the downtown curfew shortly after it came into effect at 6 p.m. local time on Wednesday. At least 400 people have been arrested in Los Angeles since the protest began Friday last week, including 330 undocumented migrants. 157 persons were arrested for assault and obstruction, including one arrested for the attempted murder of a police officer. Federal prosecutors have so far charged 2 men for throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers in 2 separate incidents. A total of 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines have been deployed to help quell the unrest. Some of the National Guard troops have now been authorized to detain people until the police can arrest them. Yesterday evening, hundreds of protesters marched to Los Angeles City Hall before being dispersed by police. As the curfew came into effect for a second night, the mayor of the city, Karen Bass, wrote on X that the measures were designed to stop bad actors who take advantage of President Trump's alleged escalation of the protests.
From Massachusetts in the United States to X-ray the immigration riots is an immigration lawyer, Andrew Thomas. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
So there's so many legal questions swirling around all of this, but let me start by getting your thoughts on President Trump's immigration policies so far.
Well, any president or any administration can execute policy as they deem fit, but the problem is, does that policy cohere with the rule of law? If it doesn't follow due process, it will be challenged at all levels from public and private citizens in the United States. And that's why there's a standoff in the form of protests in Los Angeles, because the First Amendment guarantees your right to free speech, and protest is a form of expressive conduct if you don't agree with something, especially the deployment of the military in immigration raids.
Now also speak to the legality of how these raids are conducted. We see people being rounded up at parking lots, grocery stores, and even federal workplaces.
Well, the federal government claims that these raids are not raids. They are intended to protect federal property and protect federal staff. But let's get this clear. Workplace raids are legal under two conditions. They are legal if you get a judicial warrant that clearly states where you can apprehend workers at the workplace. Number two, it is also legal if you go to a public place in that particular workplace to round up people. For example, the lobby or the reception area of a company or workplace. But in this case, people are being rounded up wherever they meet them, and that is the problem. And that's why people are protesting in agreement with their right to First Amendment rights to protest, that you can round people up, but you have to follow the rules. And that's why the California state governor and government has approached a judge to limit the involvement or even the military in workplace raids.
And we've also seen, because you mentioned the California state governor, we've also seen lawmakers in some Democratic-led states trying to intensify their resistance. Some of them are now strengthening state laws to protect immigrants in areas of housing, employment, and police encounters. Could this become a national crisis that culminates into a showdown between federal and state power?
Well, I think it's very reductive to want to make it look partisan. Whatever is not right in the eyes of the law is not right. The current administration, the president who is seeking to deploy the military, using LA as a starting point, because there are plans to deploy the military in New York, Madison, Wisconsin, and even Chicago, had to run to the courts when it appeared that prison time might be looming over January 6th and so many other allegations. The court rescued him. Thankfully, the California state government and all well-meaning Americans are seeking refuge in the court, and hopefully this attempt or several attempts to sidestep due process will be checked in due course. The string of losses will continue, because without the rule of law, America won't be a beacon for the many people who continue to seek refuge to make America home. You are allowed to execute whatever policy you want to execute, follow the rule of law. Pretty simple.
All right, thank you so much. Just a lot to talk about here. Some have called this an abuse of the power of the Oval Office. There are also fears as to whether President Trump will invoke the insurrection law, but we'll see how all of this plays out. Always a pleasure to have you on. Immigration lawyer, Andrew Thomas.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a break now. When the world now returns, we'll have more stories from across the world. Stay with us.
second, every minute, every hour, and every day. Time doesn't just tick away. It's a countdown to political decisions that shape our world.
This country must move.
Imagine the impact these decisions have on our lives. Some are consequential, others may leave us intrigued or baffled.
You will have no better friend and partner than Nigeria.
Step in and feel the frenzy like never before. Join me every weekday for an hour of fact-finding interviews where questions cut to the core.
How would you say your administration has fared in these sectors?
I will dig in to get to the heart of issues, from local politics to global insight. Join me as I unearth the power plays, jaw-dropping revelations, and the unfiltered truth. This isn't just politics, it's unraveling the stories that matter. Brace yourself for Politics Tonight every weekday at 8 p.m., where every decision echoes along the corridors of our lives. Politics Tonight, only on TVC News.
Thanks for staying with us. We're back to the Middle East, where the Israeli Defense Forces have recovered the bodies of 2 hostages in Gaza. The IDF says their bodies were recovered in Khan Yunis area of southern Gaza in an operation made possible by precise intelligence from its hostage task force and intelligence directorate, as well as the Shin Bet. In a statement issued by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he conveyed his deepest condolences alongside his wife and all the citizens of Israel to the families who have lost their most beloved. Israeli security forces operating in Gaza again have recovered 2 bodies of Israeli hostages. The Israeli Defense Forces have recovered 2 bodies again in Gaza. They are Yair Yaakov, who was 59-year-old, another male hostage whose name has not yet been made known. The IDF says their bodies were recovered in the Khan Yunis area of southern Gaza in an operation made possible by precise intelligence from its hostage task force and intelligence directorate. Now to Brazil, where former President Jair Bolsonaro has denied his involvement in an alleged plot to overthrow the country's current president, Lula da Silva. Speaking for the first time in court, Mr. Bolsonaro, who ruled the country between 2019 and 2022, said a coup was an abominable thing and there was never a possibility of a coup during his government. Alongside 7 alleged conspirators, the 70-year-old is standing trial over the events which led to the storming of government buildings by his supporters on the 8th of January 2023. And that's just 1 week after President Lula's inauguration. If convicted, the former president could face decades in prison. Now to South Africa, where 58 torrential rain and snow have hit parts of South Africa's Eastern Cape province and have led to the deaths of at least 49 people, including several school children. The provincial premier, Oscar Mabuyane, says the numbers are just escalating hour after hour, and the situation is so bad. Among the bodies recovered are those of 4 children, a driver and a conductor who were on a bus that was carried away in flood waters as it was crossing a bridge in the town of Umtata. Mr. Mabuyane said rescue efforts are continuing for the recovery of 4 more children who had been in a vehicle that was found on a riverbank with no one inside. Now to Kenya, a post-mortem has revealed that a Kenya blogger who died in police custody was hit on the head and his death was likely to have been caused by assault. The autopsy conducted by 5 pathologists who released a unanimous report revealed that Mr. Ojwang was also suffered neck compression and multiple soft tissue trauma. This contradicts claims made earlier by the police indicating that he sustained head injuries after hitting his head against a cell wall. His death has sparked widespread outrage in Kenya, with human rights groups demanding that police be held accountable. Mr. Ojwang was detained after the deputy police chief accused him of tarnishing his name on social media. Kenya's Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, tendered his apology on behalf of the National Police Service when he appeared before the Senate yesterday, retracting a statement the police earlier issued which said Mr. Ojwang died after hitting his head against a wall. Now, to discuss the death of Ojwang, which has sparked public outrage in Kenya, and just the extrajudicial killings in Kenya, we're joined by a former governorship aspirant, Beatrice Kairu. She joins us from Nairobi. Good to have you join us.
Thank you, Precious.
So we see that protest has intensified today. Cars are being set ablaze even as we speak. President Ruto has earlier condemned the killing of Ojwang, and this is coming amidst ongoing concerns of police brutality in that country. How do you and other, activists in the country react to this?
Thank you, Precious. First and foremost, we are very much saddened because of the infringement of the freedom of rights in the country, because it's enshrined in our constitution. We have the freedom, to speech. We have the freedom to access information. We have freedom to share information. But the current situation in the country since the June 25th, 2024 protests, where the youth were protesting against the Finance Bill 2024, we have seen numerous abductions and deaths of young people within the country. And currently, even the members of parliament want to pass a bill whereby they'll have to force citizens to share the information, all their personal data, so that they can access social media presence. So with that, the citizens are feeling the government is encroaching on them. They're not allowing them to express themselves. And it is unfortunate that Albert Ojwang succumbed to that aspect of him expressing himself, whereby he was exposing corruption within the police force. And unfortunately, the Kenyan citizens do not feel that the president has actually appeased them enough, because they are calling for the resignations of the Inspector General of Police and his Deputy Inspector General of Police, Eric Lagat, who was actually the complainant that had, just like the IG has Inspector General, Douglas Kanja had said that the complainant was the Deputy Inspector General. And so Kenyans were saying, why wouldn't they allow Albert Ojwang to actually have a fair trial, actually defend himself, because the only mistake he did was to share a newspaper information that had been printed by the Standard Group. So that is where now people are feeling that the president could be having a hand in it, because by now they were saying he should have indicted the IG of police and his deputy, and then further investigation to continue, because they fear there might be a compromise when the investigations are done against them. And so that's why
if I may quickly come in, because even as you speak, my mind went back to the last protest in Kenya over a finance bill, and Kenya is just coming out, of the impact of that protest. And then they were promised, of reforms. There were also reports of police brutality in that protest. I mean, what does all of this say about the commitment of the Ruto administration to reforms within the police system?
Yeah. Obviously, the Kenyan government said they are going to do reforms, but so far the citizens feel nothing much has been done, because immediately when the president came to apologize, I remember this year he had apologized to the Gen Z, where he said if he has offended the Gen Z, but the Gen Z said the youth felt that that was not an apology, it was his ego talking, because he used the word if. And then immediately he gave that statement, we started seeing young people being abducted, people being recalled, people being surveilled, private